Good morning. I hereby call to order the 16th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2017 and ask that everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first matter on this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes for the meeting of September 21st, 2017, and I look to Vice Chairman Place, who is the editor.
Thank you, Chairman. I've reviewed the minutes of the September 21st, 2017 public meeting and moved that they be approved as submitted.
You have heard the motion for the approval of the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion, further edits? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0. Now we will move on to, without objection, we'll move on to our agenda. And I recognize our Director of Office of Special Assistance, Cheryl Walker Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May it please this honorable commission, on behalf of your various offices and bureaus, we present for your consideration and disposition the following agenda items, commencing this morning with matters on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance. It is recommended in omnibus fashion that the commission adopt the recommendations, commencing with that at the top of page 1, in the matter involving the motion for default judgment of the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus Net Talkcom, Inc., and continuing with the remaining item on page 1, as well as the items on pages 2, 3, through and including the first item at the top of page 4 pertaining to the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement's motion for default judgment against Buffalo Township Emergency Medical Services, Inc.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
With regard to the next matter pertaining to the petition of PPL Electric Utilities Corporation, with regard to its Act 129 Phase 3 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Plan, there is the motion of Commissioner Sweet.
Is there a motion to call up the matter for consideration?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Sweet to call up the matter for consideration. And now I recognize Commissioner Sweet for his motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask that my motion be placed upon the record as though I had read it in its entirety. Before the Commission for consideration is a petition of PPL Electric Utilities Corporation for approval of changes to its Act 129 Phase 3 Energy Efficiency and Conservation, or EE&C plan. PP&L seeks the approval of 13 proposed modifications. This motion is to approve 12 of the 13 proposed modifications, while referring one to the Office of Administrative Law Judge for further proceedings. In particular, included in the petition is a request to combine the budgets and savings for PP&L's custom and efficient equipment programs into a single non-residential energy efficiency program with no net change in savings or cost to any customer sector. For the reasons outlined herein, I move that PP&L's proposal to combine those programs into a single program be approved.
You have heard the motion of Commissioner Sweet.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I'll yield.
No, I'm sorry.
That's all right. There are a couple more comments. PP&L proposes to, but I get the point. Well, I get the point. PP&L proposes to combine these programs to enable it to respond quickly to changing customer preferences and priorities. Combining the programs would provide PP&L with the flexibility to direct its budget towards those measures that are most requested by its customers and prevent the need for waitlisting. This change will not affect the total estimated cost or the total estimated savings for the programs, or notably any customer sector. As part of the proceeding, PP&L Industrial Customer Alliance disagrees with this proposed change. The industrials argue that the change will reduce transparency regarding the identification, tracking, and evaluation of costs and savings for the large commercial, industrial, small C&I, and government/nonprofit/educational, or G&E sectors, potentially leading to interclass subsidization. I find that PP&L has effectively addressed these concerns in its reply comments. Therefore, I move that PP&L Electric Utilities Corporation's proposal to combine the budgets and savings for the non-residential custom and efficient equipment programs into a single program be approved. And secondly, that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You done? Okay.
I am finished.
Once you say I move, once you said I move, I was on it.
I'll try to be more precise.
You have heard the motion of Commissioner Sweet. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Place. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0. Without objection, we take the previous roll call. On the matter as amended by the Sweet motion, the matter passes 4-0.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt the Office of Special Assistance recommendation in the matter involving the application of reliable taxi of the Poconos LLC, noting the statement of Commissioner Sweet.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Place. Under discussion, I recognize Commissioner Sweet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This matter comes to us through exceptions filed by protestants to the application of reliable taxi of the Poconos LLC for the right to transport people upon call or demand in a very specified area of the Mount Pocono area in Monroe County. While I favor the result here, which is to grant the authority sought by this applicant, I do take issue with the reasoning in the Commission's draft order. The Commission removed the requirement that an applicant for taxi authority establish that the grant of authority will satisfy a public demand or need in a rulemaking that became final on June 3rd, 2017. The discussion here applies the need requirement when it is no longer applicable. The application of the new standard to applications which were filed before the need requirement was removed, and it is not permissible under these circumstances. It's an accurate reflection of the Commission's intent. The elimination of need does not impose new legal burdens. It removes a burden, which means that the Commission's elimination of that requirement can be and should be applied to all applications for passenger service currently pending before the Commission. In this situation, the applicant met the need requirements, so the result is the same whether the analysis includes it or not. However, in the future, my view is that there should not be a case coming before us that denies an application based on whether the now defunct need factor has been met, as that requirement has been eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweet. Any further discussion?
I would like to
Vice Chairman
associate
Place.
myself with Commissioner Sweet's statement.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning now to page 5 of the public meeting agenda, and the matter involving the formal complaint of Kenneth McLean versus Philadelphia Gas Works. There is the motion of Commissioner Sweet, the statement of Vice Chairman Place as well, Madam Chairman, as your oral statement.
Is there a motion to call up the matter for consideration?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Sweet. Under discussion, I recognize Commissioner Sweet for his motion.
Thank you. I ask that my motion be placed upon the record as if I had read it in its entirety. In the case before us, PGW filed exceptions in the complaint, and Kenneth McLean filed reply exceptions to the initial decision of the administrative law judge, which found that PGW had failed to demonstrate that Mr. McLean was responsible for the outstanding balance of the account associated with the subject service address. The initial decision improperly shifted the burden of proof from the complainant to the utility, based upon a faulty interpretation of a Commission regulation, and then found that the utility had failed to sustain its burden. The Public Utility Code provides that the burden of proof remains squarely on the complainant, and the regulation in question does not change that. A review of the evidence shows that the complainant failed to sustain his burden, as he did not provide corroborating evidence in support of his own testimony. That itself fell far short of being credible. PGW's record evidence was sufficient to support its actions. Accordingly, I move that the the initial decision of the administrative law judge is reversed, that the exceptions of PGW are granted, that the reply exceptions of McLean are denied, and that the Office of Special Assistance prepare an appropriate order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
You've heard the motion of Commissioner Sweet. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Place. Discussion under the motion. Vice Chairman Place.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I request that my statement be entered into the record as if I had read it in its entirety. Before the Commission today are the exceptions of Philadelphia Gas Works, the initial decision issued in September 2016, which partially sustained the complaint of Mr. McLean. In his complaint, Mr. McLean alleged that he did not reside at the service address from 2012 until December 2014, and therefore was not responsible for the charges that accrued during this time period. PGW filed exceptions to the initial decision, claiming that the company established the complainant's association with the service address through a credit report as is permitted by the Commission's regulations. Although I agree that PGW used the proper vehicle to establish residency, resulting in the complainant's responsibility for service rendered at the address, I am troubled by some of the events that transpired during the evidentiary hearing. Mr. McLean was provided a telephonic hearing, which I believe is customary to assist complainants, respondents, and the Commission in providing efficient and effective due process. However, it became obvious from the outset of the hearing that there were significant concerns regarding the complainant's ability to participate telephonically, as he could not be heard by the administrative law judge and the court reporter. When the complainant was presenting his evidence, the ALJ had to stop the hearing numerous times to remind Mr. McLean to speak in a manner that was conducive for the company, the ALJ, and the court reporter to hear. The transcript reflects several instances where the complainant was simply inaudible. In addition, it appears that the complainant had not received some of the company's exhibits in a timely manner. Because of this, PGW suggested that an additional hearing be convened for the additional exhibits to be reviewed and entered into the record, and for the complainant to have appropriate time to review the materials sent to him. The ALJ determined that additional hearing was not necessary. I believe that the circumstances presented during the June 2016 hearing should have caused the ALJ to recess the hearing to determine whether this case was appropriate for an in-person hearing in Philadelphia, where the complainant resides. During the recess, the ALJ could have determined if Mr. McLean wanted to continue the hearing telephonically or present his case in person. In addition, a hearing recess could have been used to determine when the company's exhibits were sent and whether the complainant had enough time to review them. Because of these concerns with the hearing I held in this proceeding, I respectfully dissent in part. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Place. Let me also add my comments to the record. This was a very compelling set of facts for me, because the complainant here claimed that he was homeless and therefore not responsible for the arrearage being transferred to him when he inherited the family home. It's difficult to prove that one is homeless. So I would defer to the judgment of the ALJ through the testimony that was provided, even though at times, even being a telephonic testimony that was provided, at times it was inaudible. But the ALJ did feel that the testimony provided by the complainant was credible, and so I will defer to their judgment, and so I will be dissenting on this case. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 And I will be dissenting. So the motion passes 3-1, noting the partial dissent also of Vice Chairman Place. And with that, on the matter as amended by the motion, if there's no objection, we can take the previous roll call. Once again, the matter as amended passes 3-1, noting my dissent and the partial dissent of Vice Chairman Place.
Madam Chairman, on this one, the record should reflect that Commissioner Coleman provided the second.
I'm sorry. You did.
I think we said Vice Chairman Place.
Okay,
That's
I
Commissioner
apologize. Thank you for the correction.
Not a problem. Continuing with the presentation of items, it is recommended that the commission adopt the staff recommendation in the matter involving John F. Carmody versus PPL Electric Utilities as well. At the top of page 6, the recommendation in the complaint proceeding of Kevin Wilson versus Philadelphia Gas Works.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
It is recommended that the commission adopt the recommendation of the Office of Special Assistance in the matter involving the complaint of West Goshen Township versus Sunoco Pipeline LP, noting the oral statement of Commissioner Sweet.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Place. Under discussion, I recognize Commissioner Sweet for his statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I realize I'm using up more than my quota of airtime
You're good.
this meeting. Okay, well, I was going to ask Commissioner Coleman to yield up some of his time to me if necessary. Thank you. This will just take a second. I reluctantly am going to support the motion before us today, only because it does appear to be a correct application of the current law as it applies to this set of facts. I'm reluctant because this dispute is over the construction of a settlement agreement, which in my mind should not be a protracted or difficult adjudication. Nonetheless, the schedule that has been proposed would, in my mind, take, and the expert advice I've received, will probably take our processes a year to conclude. The Mariner 2 project has been an item of important public controversy and debate for some years. I am very reluctant to have this tribunal in a position where we are thought to be one more impediment or one more procedural roadblock to the proper and fair determination of whether that project should continue. There have been numerous proceedings before the courts of common pleas and the Commonwealth Court, which issued adjudication just the other day on this subject. So it is with reluctance that I'm supporting this motion, and I would strongly urge the parties and the Office of Administrative Law Judge to, in as speedy and yet fair process as they can determine, reach an adjudication regarding this squabble over the implementation of a settlement agreement. The current schedule that I've seen shows that direct testimony before the administrative law judge would not commence until February 1st of 2018. My best guess is that testimony could be given next week, that it has already been well considered by the protestants. And while I'm not urging next week the hearing be scheduled, I think it's certainly the starting gun for this proceeding can be fired before February 1st of 2018. And I would strongly urge that the parties and the Office of Administrative Law Judge work out a revised and expedited schedule for the handling of this matter. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweet. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Continuing with the presentation of matters on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, it is recommended that the commission adopt the remaining item at the bottom of page 6 with regard to the joint petition for approval of interconnection agreement of the United Telephone Company of Pennsylvania, DBA, CenturyLink, and Airbus DS Communications, Inc.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the items commencing with that at the top of page 7, the recommendation of the proceeding pertaining to the petition of the PPL Sustainable Energy Fund for modification to its bylaws, and continuing with the remaining recommendations on pages 7 and 8 through the top of page 9, the first recommendation there appearing in the matter pertaining to Suez Water Bethel Inc.'s request for approval of a tariff supplement.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Place. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
On behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, we recommend that the Commission release the earnings report for the period ending 6/30/17, noting the statement of Vice Chairman Place.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Commissioner Coleman. And under discussion, I would recognize Vice Chairman Place for his statement.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Secretary, I ask that my statement be entered into the record as if I read it in its entirety. The market analysis performed through the discounted cash flow and capital asset pricing model methods supports the adoption of lower proxy return on common equity figures. I also note the continued support that is provided for the return on common equity through the use of the distributed system improvement charge and fully projected future test year mechanisms. Therefore, I believe that it is prudent and appropriate to continue migrating to lower proxy ROE figures for DISC purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Place. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed.
The motion passes 3-1, noting the dissent of Vice Chairman Place.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Law Bureau on page 10 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation with regard to the transfer of jurisdiction requested by PennDOT pertaining to property in Butler Township and a bridge crossing the Bessemer and Lake Erie Railroad Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations? Recommendation.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning now to matters on behalf of the Office of Administrative Law Judge, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the joint petition for settlement in the matter involving the Act 1329 proceeding for the transfer of municipal property to the Pennsylvania American Water Company, noting your statement, Madam Chairman.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Vice Chairman Place. Under discussion, I do have a statement for the record that I will read in its entirety. Before the Commission today is a settlement agreement approving the application of Pennsylvania American Water Company to acquire the wastewater collection and treatment system of the municipal authority of the city of McKeesport. I applaud the parties for reaching a fair compromise of opposing views and interests. The customers of the authority benefit greatly from this acquisition. Pennsylvania American Water Company will provide much-needed investment in the system specifically to address environmental compliance issues. Importantly, the authority's customers will benefit from Pennsylvania American Water Company's additional bill payment options, extended customer service and call center hours, enhanced customer information and education programs, and access to Pennsylvania American Water's Customer Assistance Program. I'm also pleased that Pennsylvania American Water Company has agreed to submit a cost of service study in its next base rate filing that separates the cost of providing the stormwater component of the wastewater services for the authority. For these reasons and without hesitation, I support the approval of this settlement agreement. Any further discussion? Chairman Place.
So if I may, I'd also like to associate myself with the chairman's comments, and would also like to commend administrative law judges Mark Hoyer and Mary Long, as well as the participating parties for their work on this case. These efforts should be specifically noted on these, as these complex Section 1329 proceedings have a 6-month statutory deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Place. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
With that concluding the presentation of regular agenda items, we now turn to the carry-in agenda. On behalf of the Law Bureau, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff recommendation in the matter involving the Verizon petition for waiver of the Commission's late payment charges.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
And that should properly be stated as the petition for a waiver of the late payment charge regulation. Thank you, Madam Chairman. That does conclude the presentation of agenda items.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else to come before the commission at this time? Seeing nothing, without objection, the meeting is adjourned.